We are in the endgame now, but the best part is that this endgame will bring the new dawn, and we don't have to be worried about any sacrifice. SpaceX is finally ready to test the Starship for real. It's a big time for Elon Musk as he has been working non-stop on the Starship project. He's made many sacrifices for this to come true, even shifting to the SpaceX test site so he could be minutes away from the factory, and now finally, all these efforts are paying off. SpaceX Starship is ready to rumble. Why are we so excited about it? Well, the Starship is a giant leap in space tourism and space exploration. It's going to play an essential part in the colonization of Mars. The year 2022 will be a full test of flights so that SpaceX can ensure that the Starship is ready for a real mission. And it finally started. Let's dive a little inside the topic to get complete details about it. We have a pretty good look at SpaceX, and they have started testing a fully stacked Starship rocket for the first time after quickly stacking Ship 20 and Booster 4. Though the test that SpaceX put Starship through was far from ambitious, and despite the fact that it appears like Ship 20 and Booster 4 will never fly, the maiden test of the first wholly integrated prototype of a new rocket is still a huge accomplishment, especially for the world's largest rocket. Before this test, there were many people who thought that it would be a failure and SpaceX was going to burn up a lot of money again. But engineers at SpaceX were pretty confident about it. And why should they not be? They've worked for thousands of hours to make this a success. Starship is the world's largest and most voluminous rocket, standing roughly 119 meters or 390 feet tall depending on which part of the world you live. The fully assembled Ship 20 and Booster 4 stack, with its 29 Raptor V1 engines, would have weighed around 4,000 to 5,000 tons and produced about 5,400 tons of thrust at liftoff. It's significantly heavier and more powerful than the Saturn V or N1, the largest rockets ever successfully launched and unsuccessfully launched. Also, a fun fact, the Booster 4 is labeled as Peak 4, and I guess this would be the case with every booster, and the Starship is labeled as S20. It's not relevant, but I just thought I should tell you. Coming back to the topic, SpaceX looks to have put Starship through a minimal cryogenic proof. It's a test in which combustible propellant is replaced by a similarly cryogenic fluid that's similar enough to subject the rocket's similar thermal and mechanical demands. This is something new that they did for its first fully integrated test. Super Heavy was filled approximately 10 to 20%, and Starship roughly 25 to 50% of the way with either liquid nitrogen or a combination of LN2 and liquid oxygen for the simultaneous debut of Ship 20 and Booster 4. Although it's impossible to say, it's unlikely that any methane fuel was used. What I'm trying to tell you is that we have no idea what kind of fuel they have used in this test, but whatever it was, it worked like a charm. God, talking about chemicals so long felt like I was back in the chemistry class. I'm not too fond of chemistry. The day before the launch, before its initial test on top of Super Heavy, Starship S20 underwent 5 independent cryogenic proof tests on the ground. More crucially, Ship 20 accomplished 3 static fire tests with LCH-4 LOX propellant, each of which also served as a wet dress rehearsal. Cryogenic proof tests had also been passed in Booster 4. In this respect, it's unclear that SpaceX was concerned about whether either prototype would be able to pass yet another test. Aside from the obvious technical demonstration that Super Heavy Booster 4 can support a partially loaded Starship, the main goal of this first full-stack cryo-proof was most likely to confirm that all of the systems required to feed Starship on top of Super Heavy were working correctly. Given that Starship is both the tallest rocket and the largest upper stage ever manufactured, this is no small task. Around 1,200 tons of propellant must be pushed up Starbase's integration tower to completely fuel a Starship for an orbital launch, equivalent to the weight of more than 2 entire Falcon 9 rockets. I still have no idea how they did it, but they somehow managed to do it. A big shout out to the engineers of SpaceX. And we also know one thing, a Falcon 9 rocket is almost 600 tons in weight. I could have Googled it, but who cares? Fueling this rocket was a heck of a job. Thousands of feet of plumbing and a symphony of massive valves and pumps must all work in unison to fuel Starship. They need to ensure that it goes without leaking, jamming, or freezing. As a result, the first full-stack cryoproof served as a test of the orbital launch site's launch or integration tower and tank farm just as much as, if not more than, the first full-stack cryoproof. However, that initial test is only the beginning of a long process, and it's likely that over the following week or two, SpaceX will undertake an increasingly ambitious sequence of experiments with Booster 4 and Ship 20. It was a great start, but still, there is a long way to go. This sounds way too easy when we sit and listen about it, but trust me, it's too complicated. So complicated that even I'm not sure whether I'm doing justice to the topic or not. There are many problems. This cryoproof may simply entail adding more fuel to the rocket and increasing tank pressures. It could also lead to a partial wet dress rehearsal using methane and oxygen instead of liquid nitrogen. Although sources like NASA's space flight are no longer sure that Booster 4 will be static fired before retirement, there's an even slimmer likelihood that SpaceX will attempt to static fire Super Heavy B4 for the first time. According to the experts, performing the first static firing of a new prototype with an already proven Starship sitting on top of it would be uncharacteristically reckless behavior from SpaceX. An aberration as little as an uncontrolled fire aboard Starships could easily result in the catastrophic destruction of both stages, putting the orbital launch site in danger of substantial damage, which could take months to repair. And if something like this happens, then it could become a massive problem for SpaceX. Many of you may not know this, but SpaceX is already under a lot of pressure due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The launch of the Starship is getting delayed, and the delivery date is approaching. SpaceX is in no mood to delay the delivery of the Starship. And on the other hand, Elon Musk is also trying his best to help Ukraine in every way he can. So there's a lot of pressure on our genius billionaire. Elon Musk is already aware of the consequence he would have to face if this testing didn't go as planned. The consequences are not the company's loss, but they're far more significant. The ultimate loss would be the loss of his childhood dream. If this doesn't go as planned, he would lose it all and maybe would never be able to go to the Red Planet. Last year during Thanksgiving, Elon Musk wrote a letter to his employees showing his concern about the bankruptcy. In this letter, he said we face the genuine risk of bankruptcy if we cannot achieve a Starship flight rate of at least once every 2 weeks next year. We need all hands on deck to recover from what is, quite frankly, a disaster. And this letter went viral on Twitter and other social media platforms. But all you SpaceX fans have nothing to be worried about. Even if the worst case scenario happens and they're not able to show any real progress, then only they would lose billions. The company still would not go bankrupt. But yes, if the Starship project doesn't show any sign of improvement, there could be a time where investors would force Elon Musk to shut down the project. And if it comes down to voting in the worst case scenario, then there would be nothing that Elon Musk will be able to do. Again, I'm telling you this is the worst case scenario, and there is almost no chance of this happening. But it's good to keep people informed. As we can clearly see right now, SpaceX Starship is making real progress. They are moving forward, and the world is watching them achieve the impossible. The testing is going well till this point, and hopefully, they will go for the first test launch soon. Oh boy, I can't wait for that to happen. All I can see from these stacking tests is that SpaceX is on the right path, and that day is not far when they make history.